Good afternoon. I'm Wanda Musgrave, and it's a privilege for me to be here as a member of Providence United Methodist Church. As I said, it's an honor to be here today to tell you about the Reverend Harley Dickson I knew. There are many here who knew him a lot longer than me. However, over the last 10 or 12 years, our friendship developed over ministries we loved and shared. You will hear next about Harley's involvement in the United Methodist Foundation and the Reynolds Ministries. But I too serve on these boards that Harley served on, the United Methodist Foundation and the Reynolds Ministries. Harley is the one who offered me these opportunities. Through Bill and I having known Royce and Jane Reynolds for many years, Harley called me one day and said he and Royce had been talking and they would like for me to serve on the Reynolds team. It was through that introduction that I met the Reverend David Snipes, who invited me to be on the United Methodist Foundation board. This was so Harley. He was a great connector. He recognized people's gifts and connected and encouraged them to serve. Whenever Harley and I were together at meetings, of course, as good Methodists, we always had lunch. And I got to sit with Harley during these times, which gave us an opportunity to talk and share our love of the church and its missions. Bill and I were also very fortunate to be able to connect with Harley and Inez at Lake Junaluska. Every year in the spring, my phone would ring and I would see it was Harley. He would say, "When are you coming to the lake?" We would catch up for a while and then I would say, "I will send you some dates for dinner." These were such special times for us. Being with Harley and Inez was a joy. Everyone, as Tom said, was welcome at their home at Lake Junaluska. Whenever you stopped by, the hospitality began with food, fellowship, and lots of love and lots of laughter. Harley's career had many extraordinary things to include, but I'm here to tell you about one in particular. Why? Because it started in this place where we are gathered today, Providence United Methodist Church. It was during Harley's time serving the local church here at Providence that the Haiti mission was born. It all began with Bill and Alice White, members at this time, who were dear friends of Harley and Inez. The short version of a very long story, Bill White decided to donate his boat, the Pieces of Eight, to the Methodist Church. Encore accepted the gift as long as Bill would sail the boat to Port-au-Prince. Bill said, "Where's Port-au-Prince?" Well, by now we all know it's the capital in Haiti. During the unusual adventure of this gift, the Whites fell in love and developed a strong attachment to this strange country. They were profoundly touched and knew they were being called to help. So in 1980, the miracle began. With the total support of Pastor Harley and with the deepening commitment of the Whites, their love for Haiti inspired our congregation, and the Providence Haiti Mission was launched. In December of 1982, a group of travelers were ready to go and put boots on the ground. Alice and Bill White, Reverend Dick Daly, their son-in-law, Harley and Inez Dickson, Howard and Carolyn Boylan, Ed and Dottie Johnson, and Al and Helen Rose left on a look-see trip to Haiti. Something Al Rose said resonated with this group. How do we bring the love of Jesus to people when they are hungry and hurting? Their vision for this mission came out of this statement and included bringing to Haiti sanctuaries for people to worship in, schools to educate their children in, wells to provide clean and pure water clinics to provide health care, and helping Haitians improve their methods of growing food for nourishment. Many people from this church have embraced this mission and traveled to Haiti. There are many stories to tell. Many have touched their lives and have changed their lives. Through hurricanes, embargoes, dictators, political unrest, riots, earthquakes, we endured it all. All of the visions put forth by that look-see trip have been realized many times over. Fast forward to 2021. What began with these brave and visionary pioneers has grown through several more pastors and congregations, especially during the years of Bishop Ken and Reverend Pam Carter, who helped grow this mission to what it is today. Providence continues to be a significant donor to the medical arm of the ministry, which is now in Charlottesville, Virginia. The Haiti Mission Foundation continues to send 4 teams a year to treat somewhere between 2,500 and 3,000 patients a week at the Tovar Clinic. Yes, the same Tovar Clinic that was built in the 1980s by the division and hard work of the people from this church. The well that sits outside this clinic is the one that Bill White built so many years ago. This well will live on forever because it's on the front of Harley's book. Providence has continued to love and advance this mission throughout the leadership of Harley Dickson as it goes on today. We have built somewhere over 150 wells. We continue to engage and support the education of many Haitians, and we have over 350 women in microfinance loans. Harley and Inez were so inspired by this mission, they continued to support it with their gifts and their love until their passing. Harley even wrote the book about it that I showed you, so that what grew out of this church will never be forgotten. In the book, The Real Miracle, Harley quotes, "In some mysterious way, the appalling need in Haiti seems to inspire people to attempt impossible tasks in the relief of human suffering, to give fresh hope to those who seem doomed to hopelessness and despair." It is this kind of commitment that was propelled and has propelled the Providence Haiti Mission of Love. A tribute to this ministry, it is the longest continuing medical mission in one place by one church in all of United Methodism. Harley also quotes in his book, "A church that shares an effective missional outreach with one or more human hurts and hopes becomes a legend on the community grapevine. Much to its surprise, it becomes a church that is more interested in helping than in being helped, a church more interesting in loving than in being loved. It becomes a church more interested in giving than in getting. It becomes one of the distinctive churches in the community, a church that gives itself away in missional service." This does not only describe the mission here at Providence that Harley helped build, it also describes the way Harley and Inez lived out their calling to ministry. They always held Providence close in their hearts, and as you've heard, upon retirement, made it their church home. We were blessed in so many ways to have them worship with us. As all of us know, so many times in our life, when we look back and we have lost a loved one, we say, "I wish I had." Well, this summer, Ann and Larry Atkinson, Dave and Linda Guilford, and Bill and I got together, and as was often the case when we were together, Harley came up in our conversation. We all agreed we need to go see him and have lunch, something we had done many times before, but in our heart of hearts, we knew the time was coming to a close. So in July, we spent a few days of relaxation at Lake Junaluska. We headed down the mountain on July 23rd. We stopped at Gibbons and had lunch with Harley. When we arrived, we were greeted by that smile that you sometimes didn't see, but oftentimes did see, and it was beautiful. We had a wonderful lunch with Harley. It was beautiful in the new dining room that he had planned, and we enjoyed our time together. Inez would have been so proud of her Harley. When we were leaving, we all gave thanks to God for nudging us to have taken this time to spend with our dear friend. On August 19th, Harley passed away. In Haiti, when you have climbed one mountain, you can usually expect to climb another one very soon. It has certainly been my experience in Haiti. The future is always uncertain, a mixture of doubt, guesswork, but lots of hope. Harley always encouraged me in my work in Haiti. He advised me when we decided to start a nonprofit for future sustainability of this work. Do any of us know what the future holds for Haiti? Not me, and not today. But in the words of Reverend Harley Dickson, quote, "Hopefully every crisis also contains opportunity. I'm betting on that," end quote. Harley bet on it, and so am I. This is why we tell our friends in Haiti, God willing, we will always return. So to me, Harley was a mentor, a connector, a visionary, a dreamer, an encourager, someone who accomplished sometimes the impossible. He was a great pastor and preacher. And not only could he preach, but he understood the workings of the church, especially the people. But most of all, he was a friend to all of us. I believe on that day in August of this year, Inez was waiting at the gates of heaven for Harley, and she said, "Bienvenue, Lakai Mawan Mon Amour." That's Haitian Creole for welcome home, my love.
Good afternoon. My name is David Snipes, and I have the honor and pleasure of serving as the president of United Methodist Foundation following Harley. I also have had the honor and the privilege of being the beneficiary of the USS Yellow Jacket, Tom. When Harley and Inez sold that boat, my wife and I bought it, although I do not have any stories like the one that Tom told. But I've heard about it. To say that Harley was a unique person would be an understatement, as all of you know and you have already heard today. As a matter of fact, Harley may have been one of the most unique people that I've ever met. And for those of you that know him well, you can define that the way you wish. To say he wasn't an accomplished pastor would quite frankly be an incorrect statement. As I understand it, at the time that he was appointed as the DS of the Waynesville district, he was actually the youngest pastor to ever be appointed as a district superintendent in 1967. When you look at his overall service record, you see he served not only one, but two districts as district superintendent. He served some of our largest membership churches in the Western North Carolina Conference and experienced at what was, at the time, the largest growth in total assets at the United Methodist Foundation of Western North Carolina. To say that Harley was passionate about ministry and had a hard time retiring would be a correct statement. He loved to be involved, and he loved to be in the know. I am aware of at least 2 different occasions after he retired that he came back and worked for the United Methodist Foundation. As a matter of fact, I can remember one time when Johnny Jones, a former member who has since passed away but was a member of Providence and the chair of the board of the United Methodist Foundation, asked me one time, how many damn times are we going to have to celebrate Harley's retirement? This was after the 3rd time that we had celebrated Harley's retirement. As I stand here today, I can only imagine Harley and Johnny right now up in heaven playing a round of golf and Johnny saying, well, you finally retired. What took you so long? My experience of Harley came way before I actually met him in 2001. My first appointment back in 1994 was at First United Methodist Church, Lexington, where I served as associate pastor. Harley had served there as senior pastor from 1971 to 1975. And for those of you that know Harley well, it probably comes as no surprise to you that 20 years later, the folks at First Methodist Lexington were still talking about Harley and his leadership. There's one thing that I've learned from what Tom has said and from what Wanda has shared today. There is certainly consistency in who Harley was. The words stern but fair were often used to describe Harley. There were some things going on in the church that kind of felt like things were going out of control, and people would say, if Harley Dickson were here, we wouldn't be in this situation. Harley knows the business of the church. Good and strong in the pulpit. And I even heard Harley has the best poker face of anyone you've ever met. I later came to experience that poker face firsthand when I was interviewed for the position of president of the United Methodist Foundation. There were actually many other comments, but I will not share them today for fear that I may lose my credentials as an ordained Methodist minister here in the Western North Carolina Conference. All of us participating in this service today have our own experiences and stories to tell about Harley. Since his passing, I've heard many of the same ones, and I've even heard a few new ones. But no matter what the story might be, it always seems that there are familiar themes. A large man in stature that could be intimidating at times, if not most. A well-educated person that enjoyed lifelong learning and wanted to share what he knew, and often because he thought he was right. A pastor that lived into and up to the commitments that he made through the various ministries that he supported, but probably the most important commitment to his faithful companion, Inez. And finally, a fun-loving person that enjoyed a round of golf, a spirited discussion, a good trip, and on occasion, if not frequently, an afternoon libation. But at the very core of all that can be said and experienced about Harley, there was simply a child of God trying to do the best that he could do with what God had blessed him with, the gifts and graces for ministry. And for this reason, as you have heard already today, the lives that he touched have forever been transformed. And I am one of those lives. So to Harley, I say thank you. Thank you for being on that search committee of the United Methodist Foundation and having something to do with bringing me here. Thank you for your vision and your wisdom that helped the foundation to think outside the box in doing ministry. Thank you for having that difficult conversation with the Reynolds family as we started offering leadership development programs. And thank you for those discussions that we had when I simply had no idea which step to take. Thank you for being you. Rest well, my friend, rest well. You've lived a long and prosperous life, making a difference all along the way, near and far. And for this, we are most grateful. Amen.